things that come out in the public, they first started in private.
Totally.
So people need to address the privacy of their own heart.
Yes. Be able to put my hand up as a 33-year-old senior pastor and go, I've got eyes. I want to be liked. I want attention. And when someone of the opposite sex does that, I have to keep my guard up.
That's a false narrative to think that marriage deals with your flesh. It doesn't. You have to crucify the flesh.
It.
Yeah. Healthy marriages build healthy homes.
Totally.
And healthy children become healthy individuals that contribute to society in a different way. So it is worth building a strong marriage. Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. This is The Healthy Christian. I'm Sabrina Peters, psychologist and pastor, passionate about emotional health and spiritual maturity, because the best you is a whole you. Let's check out today's episode. Welcome back to today's podcast. We have an amazing episode. We're going to be talking about marriage, building a strong marriage, how to affair-proof your marriage. Have with me Fred Porter, who loves to be married.
I do love being married. I have been married 11 years to an amazing lady called Anna Joy Porter, and it's fun. It's an adventure. Haven't been married as long as you and Benny, but it's a fun adventure, isn't it?
Yeah, you guys are amazing. I feel like it's not necessarily how long you've been married, but the quality of marriage. There are people that have been married 40, 50, 60 plus years, and they're people that we look up to. Like you said, we've been married nearly 17 years. Our anniversary is coming up very soon, but we have so many good years ahead of us, and we want to be as in love, as committed to one another, have the same strength, if not stronger, in the decades to come.
Yes.
Fred, you talk about marriage, relationships, singleness, lots of nice, juicy topics all the time, dude. So I saw a post that you did a few weeks ago, and it was just called, I think, How to Affair-Proof Your Marriage. Yeah. We want to break that open and really address sometimes, the elephant in the room, but how would you start that? Where would you start?
I think probably a good place to start is why I did the post. And I think it's not because of the issues we see sometimes in the Western church of leaders falling and all that sort of stuff. It's probably just because on a more personal level, I've just sat in the passenger seat of multiple affairs, not just in the Christian space, before I was a pastor, in the corporate space, and they always come with so much damage, devastation, regret. Once again, I'll say it again, not just for believers, for non-believers. And so I think for something that can be so devastating, I think it's interesting how much prominent Christian voices don't talk about this sort of thing.
So
you're amazing. Your podcast, your blogs, your content you've been making and putting out there for years speaks to this. But sometimes I'm just like, let's talk about this because we should be,
Absolutely. And you are right that when there is the erosion of a marriage, it doesn't just impact the husband and wife or the two individuals that are married, it flows down to the kids. And that doesn't mean that if there is divorce that you still can't have a life that God has for you. My parents both got divorced, but I would be remiss to say I wasn't impacted by that on some level.
Totally.
And so it does have that knock-on effect. And I think healthy marriages build healthy homes, and healthy children become healthy individuals that contribute to society in a different way. So it is worth building a strong marriage. All right, let's just go there straight away. What are some of the pitfalls when it comes to affair-proofing your marriage or seeing holes within a relationship?
Yeah, so I think as we were talking about before we started the podcast, I think being self-aware is one of the greatest things you can be as a leader, a pastor, a Christian, a human. Now I'm going to say like a psychological term, and I'm freaking out because Sabrina is the smartest person I know.
I'm not.
And is but there is something in psychology called Johari's window.
Yes,
which is the space that no one can see, not people around you and not yourself. And I think that so many humans have a Johari window, but so many pastors and leaders have a Johari window, but on purpose, because they've made a habit out of hiding the true them because of the pressures of ministry, because of the pressures of the platform, that they learn how to hide and then are surprised at what grows in that hiddenness. And so I think if we can rip the Band-Aid off in the church and just go, this is what it means to be a human, and not get greasy with grace and not get permissive with things that are perverse, but actually be able to put my hand up as a 33-year-old senior pastor and go, I've got eyes. I want to be liked. I want attention. And when someone of the opposite sex does that, I have to keep my guard up when that happens. And so I think the first thing is probably just being super honest and stop acting like not act like none of us have a flesh, not act like none of us have genitals, not act like none of us, because people that I speak to that have affairs, they always say, and you would have heard this, they always, I don't know how it happened.
Yeah.
Oh, it just one day at the no. You made months of intentional decisions.
1,000 little steps before you got there.
And you weren't honest with yourself or anyone else. So I think number one is just being honest. Can I give you a really candid example?
Yes, of course.
Okay, here we go. This is like a little bit embarrassing.
Go for it.
But it's a while ago, so I feel okay. So when I was a youth pastor years ago, we had me and Anna oversaw a youth ministry of about 100, and there was this leader that joined the team. I would have been 24. She would have been 21. And we were running this youth ministry, and I just found myself, one day I was driving a youth, and I was like, oh, I'm excited to see that youth leader. Now, I'm a very excitable person, so that happens a bit. But then the next Friday, I was driving a youth, and I was excited to chat to this person. And that's all it was, excited to chat. So I was like, well, I should talk to Anna about that. But then I didn't really want to, so I didn't. And then I listened to a podcast by Chris Valentin from Bethel Church, and this is like the next week. And he tells a story about how when he was younger, he met this girl, and he said there was nothing untoward, nothing sexual, no lust. I just had an unhealthy curiosity. He's like, so I went to Kathy immediately and told her.
I love that.
And so I was like, okay, God. So I went home and I just said, hey, babe, nothing. You know, Anna's pretty direct. She's like, cool. Like, have you thought any thoughts you shouldn't have? And I'm like, no. I'm just abnormally curious to get to know. And can I just say, husbands, just really quickly, you forfeited that when you got married.
Yeah.
You don't get to investigate even a conversational relationship with a female anymore. Like, your space for that is in your marriage. And so I think being aware enough just to go, because there was no sin involved, there was nothing wrong, but I just aborted that curiosity early through honesty. And I just think if we've just got to be open. We've just got to be open. I'm now going to flip the script on Pastor Sabrina Peters. Can you give us an example in the last 17 years of yourself or Pastor Ben going through something similar?
Yeah, I love that you shared that. And as you are telling your story, I'm like, that's healthy to say that. I'm not saying that's necessarily healthy, but it's also normal. Like, normalize the fact that when you get married, that doesn't mean that all of your desires just immediately stop. You don't look at anybody and find them attractive. That's a false narrative to think that marriage deals with your flesh. It doesn't. You have to crucify the flesh.
It. Yeah. There's more pressure, tension, restrictedness.
Yeah. And there's actually more on the line if you think about it. There is so much more on the line. So for us being married, I take into consideration, like, it's not just Ben and I, it's what happens to our kids if something goes down, what happens to our church. And so there's a lot of weight there. Early on in our marriage, Ben and I made a commitment and promise to one another that we would be honest and that we would not hide things from one another, that we would be people that tell our own secrets, and that made a big difference. I remember saying to Ben early, first couple of years, I think we talked about, like, have you ever found somebody attractive? And that's a scary, that's a loaded question, right? Yeah. And I think Ben was like, well, yeah, before, his were very much like before there were these two girls and I thought maybe I could marry them, blah, blah, blah. And I met you. And so I gave him permission to be honest. And then I remember saying to him, I was like, oh, I felt like I had a really big emotional connection with this one person. And I was like, it's this person, they live here. And he's like, anybody else, babe? And I was like, yeah, this one time. And and the way that I suppose I'm wired, I connect intellectually with people.
Yes.
So I've never said to Ben, I find this person attractive. I'm like, I'm magnetized to you, Ben.
Yes.
Like you're the only
Yes.
person that has physical attraction. There were those moments where I was like, I started to speak to people that were, I suppose, really into science, psychology, very insightful, very conversational. There's a term, sapiosexual, where you're attracted to intellect. And I would say to Ben all the time, I think I'm a sapiosexual. He's like, you're such a weirdo. And I'm like, no, but I didn't indulge or entertain any of that.
That's right.
And I would honestly be really open if there was anything, because I am the defender of my marriage and I'm not leaving doors open.
Can you say, what's that term again?
Sapiosexual.
I actually think that I didn't know that term because I'm dumb, but I think that is going to be really freeing for people to hear, because I know I've talked to people, guys and girls, who are married and who have a conversation, leave feeling attracted but a bit confused, because they're like, I'm not engaging in, my mum would call them the eye gates. I'm not being undisciplined in my eye gates. What happened there?
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes our Jahari window is actually because we're not educated, and people who are studied like yourself aren't educating us on how we're wired. And so I actually think that's just such a helpful metric to be like, okay, I got to watch my eye gates, but I've also got to just be a little bit careful to not have like 45-minute convos with the opposite sex. Like I covenanted to someone, and that means I forfeit some things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And normalize the fact that you can have a conversation with somebody and it can be very enlightening, but you have to bracket the emotional restraints.
Yes.
And so when you are in a covenant relationship and when you are married, you don't have emotional intimacy with anybody. There's none of that emotional connection. And often it starts with a spark or emotional connection first before it leads to something that is physical or sexual in nature.
Particularly in the Christian space.
Yes, probably more so
what I mean?
in the Christian world, whereas the culture and the world itself, society is just like
hookup culture,
free reign. But I think honesty, that is a point that needs to resonate. Be honest with your spouse.
Yes.
Now, don't come to them and be like, so I've got this list of people that I found attractive.
Here is a list of my deepest, darkest fantasies. I want to be open with you.
No, that's not what we're saying, okay? I think you need to bring the flesh and your desires under control, restraining them and not just being like, oh, well, I found that person attractive. Like, man, bring your desires to God and they need to be contained.
Totally.
And not just contained, they need to be directed. So direct it to your spouse.
Yes.
My affection is directed to nobody else but my husband. I'm not giving that away.
Totally.
My attention, I talk to people all day long, as a therapist, and I have come home before and I've said to Ben, I really clicked with that person. Or like, oh, there was one guy that came in and he was like a very handsome guy and Ben's a bit like, babe. And I'm like, I'm telling you, because things start in secret and they grow.
Totally.
And I'm also like, nip that in the bud. This is the man that I love. This is the man that I respect and honor. And so many things that come out in the public, they first started in private.
Totally.
So people need to address the privacy of their own heart, their own thoughts, and then what you do in the private place and
the marriage bed is undefiled, man. Well, my mum used to say to me, she used to say, legitimate need, illegitimate source.
Whoa.
So she'd say, Fred, you've got all these desires and things, but it's a legitimate need. Don't feel evil or bad. But I was a single young man at the time. So she's like, you don't have an outlet yet. You don't have a godly outlet, but just be rest assured there is a legitimate source. And I think oftentimes we have this legitimate need, whether it's for physical intimacy or emotional conversation, whatever it is, bring it to your spouse. We know this episode is really targeting married couples. It's bring it to your spouse, talk about it. And I think sometimes we sacrifice our marriages because we don't want to get vulnerable and we don't want to be uncomfortable. I've had so many guys say to me, I don't want to tell my wife what I'm struggling with or what's going on because it'll upset her. Bro, what's going to upset her more?
Yeah.
Like, yes.
Yeah.
I remember first year of our marriage, I looked at something online and I told Anna and she burst into tears.
Yeah.
Shock horror, she wasn't stoked. But the goal in that moment, we're actually, I'm probably talking to hubbies, we're making it about ourselves. Oh, I don't want to upset her. No, you just don't want to have the convo. So put your comfort on the altar of your marriage and go, hey, we're going to have this convo. We're going to be open with it. Because like you said, it's what we're trying to do here is we're trying to kill things early.
Yeah.
You know, and I think particularly maybe for women as well, but for speaking to guys, we need to be on a constant journey of killing things early.
Yeah.
And how do we kill it? The sword of honesty, which is what you're saying. We're just going to get it out. It's going to suck. I sweat in uncomfortable conversations. So
are you sweating now or are you
no,
good?
I'm good now. I feel good. I haven't done anything wrong. But yeah, I just think it's like go through the awkward. Your wife's worth awkwardness.
Yeah.
Your wife's worth a convo. Anyway, now I'm ranting because I'm real passionate about this.
No, I love this. This is such good conversation. And that honesty should lead to vulnerability.
Yep.
And so when we're honest, we are vulnerable in our conversations, which is not easy for every person because sometimes vulnerability has been met with criticism or harshness. And I think that we have to be willing to meet the needs of our partners. Totally. And when they bring something to us, I haven't always done that well, to be truthful. I think I've dropped the ball many a time and Ben probably has equally, but saying what you need is so important in a way that is heard by the person. Totally. And there are a lot of things that are underlying within a marriage and we want to bring them to our spouse so that we don't get drawn into other directions.
Totally. Also, gentlemen, real quick, just a little hot tip from FP. I'm only 11 years in, but honesty leads to vulnerability. And often vulnerability leads to intimacy. So if you want to kick the devil in the face, bring his attempt into the marriage conversation and watch as your wife feels loved and cared for with your vulnerability, maybe not straight away, and it leads to intimacy. And when I say intimacy, I'm not just talking about physical, I'm talking about the honest uniting of conversation, your hearts, your souls, and if you're lucky, your bodies. But honesty is a weapon in the hand of God and a weapon in the hand of your marriage.
Brilliant. Love it, Fred. This is very good. Okay. Let's not just go with, I'm trying to steer away from exiting my marriage or like violating my marriage. What builds a healthy marriage? What keeps the spark alive?
Yeah. Okay. Once again, I want to stress, we've been married 11 years and I'm in no way a marriage expert, but I think there's a few things that our counselor, Chris, she told us.
Shout out to Chris.
No joke. 2016, Chris, she saved our marriage, literally. So wow. Thankful for her. But there's a few things. Is this like practical? Because I got some practicals.
I think go practical because sometimes it can feel so ethereal or like detached. What does it look like day to day to build a strong marriage?
Okay. The biggest practical tool Chris ever gave us, and it literally changed our lives. I'm not being hyperbole when I say that. I mean, literally, is she was like, you need to start, back in the day when I was in youth, Monday was the day off. She's like, you need to introduce marriage Mondays. And I thought she was going to go walk by the river, prayer time. She's like, no. She's like, if you get to that, great. Mm-hmm. She's like, you're going to have a list. You're going to come together. You're going to talk about what worked for you this week, what didn't. You're going to talk about finances. You're going to talk about sexual intimacy. You're going to talk about everything that pertains to your marriage. You're going to have an open place of conversation. She looked at me. She's like, minimum 60 minutes. This isn't because we were in such a bad place. Wow. And so we, for the next 3 years, I reckon I could count on two hands the amount we missed. We, every Monday, would meet. And can I tell you, that first year, Sabrina, was pretty horrible because our marriage wasn't in a good place. So when you create a space to bring grievance or hurt and pain, if there's a lot of it, it'll come up. But it also taught me to put a priority on it. And it also taught Anna, I'm never going to have to go more than 7 days before I'm heard. Before there is a space that does not move for communication. And I think I couldn't tell you the amount of couples we've been like, you need a marriage. It can be whatever day, but you need a marriage Monday. Because so many, and I don't want to generalize or paint with a large brush stroke across gender, but often males are the ones that are moving quickly, moving ahead, a 1 hour chat about feelings isn't something that lights them up. And I'll say this now, it still probably doesn't light me up, but the fruit of it does.
Brilliant.
And so I think practically, what are we talking? Just communication, a place to be heard, a place to speak. And so I think that was absolutely vital in our marriage, for sure.
I like your counselor, your therapist, whoever that was, gave you some good advice.
Yeah.
What that demonstrates to me is intention.
Yes.
A lot of the time, people will get married and they will have the assumption that my marriage should thrive, right? Nobody starts a business. Nobody builds a house. Nobody gets involved in ministry without this, I'm going to have to put in hard work. There's going to be energy and there's intention. And so what that is doing is saying, I'm going to be intentional about my marriage. I'm going to put in effort. I'm going to make it a priority. And intention leads to connection.
Totally.
Because when you are connected, that's when people find marriage to be a place of emotional safety, of intimacy, of shared meaning where we're going somewhere together. There's a vision for their marriage. And that is a really great practice to make time for your marriage, make time for your spouse. Think about the days when you were dating or engaged. Benny often talks about it. We would stay up till sometimes 3, 4 in the morning because we wanted to connect with each other. We wanted to know each other. We wanted to be seen. And that was so effortless. And I think what happens is we get married and the physiological arousal changes slightly. It goes from this spontaneous, every time I look at that person, I have butterflies to, I roll over in bed and it's like,
Take out the damn bins.
It's like, put your laundry. Why are your undies next to the laundry basket? No,
I
Ben's
didn't know we
actually
were going to
really
talk
great.
about Pastor Ben's undies on podcast, but I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
He's so helpful. He's such a good husband. We need to be intentional because back then, what were we doing? We were pouring into our spouse. We were making time. We were prioritizing our girlfriend, our boyfriend. And then we get to being married and then we're like, oh, this should just work. No, it takes
nothing just works.
No.
Like Jordan Peterson said, nothing just gets better.
Yeah.
By proxy. Like nothing. Yeah. And I love what you say. You're phrasing it very pastorally. But once again, I don't want to be hitting up the men too much, but I will because I am one. Gentlemen, put some freaking work in. Yeah. Romance, find out, I don't want to be too intense, but find out what gets your wife in the mood. Find out, I'm gonna put my wife. This is crazy. This is scandalous. I'm gonna put my wife on blast for what gets her in the mood. A cup of tea on the back deck and a 20-minute conversation.
Yeah, there you go, men.
We've got to put work in. Because this is the thing, when someone has an affair, they actually are putting dedicated work into it in the office, in the workplace, in the, God forbid, in the church. They're actually putting effort in. And so it's we have to come back to that intentionality and our marriages are worth it. Resource plug, Jensen Franklin has a sermon called Fight for Your Family. Nice. And it's all about intentionality and just scheduling time to go, this is worth something. I'm ranting again. I apologize, but I'm sick of seeing marriages fall over when nothing crazy even happened. Every now and again in life, there's a traumatic event that really shakes the foundations of a marriage, but often it's the tiny foxes.
It's the slow drift.
It's the slow death. Yeah. And it's you can, if you're listening to that and this is you can fix that right now. I'm not saying you'll get the result of fixing it today, but you can begin the process of intentionally fixing that today. You can have a great marriage.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to end in tragedy.
Absolutely.
Okay. This is kind of therapy for me. Just getting some stuff out.
Yeah, let it out. There is an incredible marriage therapist or researcher. His name's John Gottman. I've talked about him on a couple of other podcasts with Benny before. And he says something that is really simple but profound. He says small things often. So small habits often. Wow. It is small connection points every single day that make a world of difference rather than, okay, it's our 10-year anniversary, we're going to go away. It's wait, did you guys check in? Did you connect? What happens day to day within your marriage? Yeah. There's something within his framework called the Sound House model called relationship rituals. It's a lot like your marriage Monday. So we should have rituals that bring us together because a lot of things in the world, different responsibilities, parenting, church, business, job, study, they drift our paths away. So we have to continually be, okay, we're coming together because we are a team, we are a unit, we are a partnership. And so those relationship rituals give scaffolding, something that Ben and I have done since we have been dating is a regular date night. We don't go out at night much anymore. I think I'm getting older and I'm like, I don't want to go out at night. I'm tired.
You have offspring.
Yeah, but like
Gotta get up early.
Yeah, our eldest is 13. So it's not even the kids. I think it's just personality and age. But we do every single week. We just go for a coffee and a walk. And that fills my cup because we talk, we connect, sometimes we argue, sometimes we dream, but what we're doing is we're not living independent lives in the same
You're not
house.
ships in the night.
No.
You're not friendly roommates.
No.
And what you just said there is so awesome. And it makes me think of you just briefly were like, oh, your 10-year anniversary. Dr. Carolina Leaf talks about the refuel effect. And she talks about how if you've got a car and it's a 40-litre car, when it's empty, it's empty. And when you want to fill it, you can only put 40 litres in. And she said so many marriages are not refilling and then going and trying to put 300 litres in. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't. Once again, sorry, gentlemen, you can't fix it with 2 nights at the Hilton and a nice dinner. It might help a tiny bit, but it's those small moments of connection. And really, I just love this. Even as Pastor Sabrina is talking, it's like the armor against an affair is being placed on us. It's how can a coffee stop an affair? Of course it can. Those connection points, it's so good.
Yeah, it's about connection because when you guys feel like you are each other's cheerleaders, where you are each other's advocates, and to be honest, I would say the best of friends. There is so much research that talks about when you have a strong friendship or companionship, that is a springboard for marriage. And so what you're trying to do is build strong connection here. Because when there's a drift, you go looking in other places. I'm not sure if this is 100% accurate, but I have not met many people that have been in strong, reciprocal, loving marriages going and having affairs. So I feel like that's the antidote, and that's what we should focus on. Like, to be honest, I have never thought to myself, how do I not have an affair? I've never thought that personally, but that's because I'm too focused on trying to build a good marriage. I'm trying to build a healthy, fun marriage where we're not just married, we want to be married. Yes. We love each other, but we also like each other. And Benny does say that it's a bit easier for me than it is for him because he's a good husband, and the truth is he's a great husband, and we're best of friends.
Can I say that's confidence from Pastor Ben? like Pastor Ben, I'm sure you're watching this. Like that's that flex on him, brother.
He says it all the time, and I do understand what he's saying. We have 2 beautiful children. We're very blessed, but he'll often say to me, one of them is easier to parent, right? And I'm not going to say which one. And I'm like, yep. And he's like, yeah. And one of us is easier to be married to. And I'm like, accurate. You are actually easy to be married to. You're an upright man. You have integrity. You love me. You listen to me. Oh, and he's built. He's a unit. Sorry, sidetracked.
That's great.
He's a very sexy man. But we're heading in the same direction, and we're building our lives on the foundation of Christ and his word and his principles. And I hope that we celebrate our 50, 60-year anniversary and we still love each other as much as we do today.
Amen. And can I just say, I know we've got to wrap up, but can I just say, this is our different nurtures, right? I have thought to myself, how do I affair-proof my marriage? Because I've been in the passenger seat of so many affair crashes. And so I would never say, to be candid to the episode, I've never really struggled in life with a real person. My Goliath was digital. But I think because I've seen a few of my mentors, leaders, friends fall, it's, I think, brought a healthy fear, not an unhealthy fear.
Yeah.
I also have a call to build a church and be semi-church influential. And so I'm like, okay, how I need to be diligent with this, you know? And so I think both places can be healthy, you know, one, of not even going there because there's an intent of building the marriage, and two, going, all right, let's know the proclivities. You've watched this happen a few times. How can I avoid? Which I think is good as well.
And that is insightful. And Ben has often said that to me because I've been like, I will never commit adultery. And he's like, babe, too much confidence. And I'm like, no, but I'm not saying that I'm perfect and that I would never stumble. Part of it is like marriage is worth far too much to jeopardize. Part of that is God's grace is what keeps me, not my own self, not my own doing. But I've said before, I'd honestly like hurt you before, as in you have more chance of
getting a clip around the ear.
Yeah, getting that than adultery. I never want to be confident in myself.
Yes,
and so
sure.
I think that's a big key is that we keep bringing our marriages to God. We're honest with each other.
Amazing.
We're honest with other people.
Yes.
We tell our own secrets. We should be people that tell our own secrets and in the right spaces. I'm not saying like go on Facebook and be like, so yesterday this is what I did. I'm saying,
hey team, struggled with my eye gates today. Like and subscribe.
No, I mean somebody, even if it's just the Holy Spirit, should know everything about you.
That's great. And I think that honestly, you've really summed up my entire thoughts, my entire post. Tell our own secrets. What a beautiful covenant you made with Pastor Ben early on. If we would do that, we'd be in a good place.
So good. Yeah. I hope this episode encouraged you to build a strong marriage. Like and subscribe and follow Fred.
You don't have to do that. But if you're new to this space or just stumbled upon this episode and you're wondering, who is this Pastor Ben? At Ben Peters, he's a Kingdom City pastor and he's a good man.
Awesome. Thank you, Fred. You're amazing.
Bye.
Peace. Thank you for tuning in to The Healthy Christian. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and let's get healthy together.